My soul bows to you. Namaskar. Namaskar everyone, and welcome to day 7 of our 21-day meditation series. Yesterday I dealt with the two principal energy centers that we want to root in the meditation, and that's the center of the mind, the brow center, and the center at the base of the spine, the root center. Root center connects us to the earth. Brow center centers us in the mind. Now, mind is in your subtle being. And all the energy centers that I speak about in the multidimensionality are in your subtle being. Now, you'll agree with me that the subtle being, subtle anatomy, cannot be perceived by your human senses. But it's utterly vital that you understand your subtle energy anatomy. If you want to control the mind, if you want to master the mind, if you want to master all the energies of being in your multidimensionality, then you need to understand the subtle nature of your being, which cannot be perceived by the human senses. And here, ancient wisdom brings to us the key, the science of yoga. In the science of yoga, it gives us a systematic way or practice by which we can begin to perceive the inner space. And that happens when we expand our consciousness beyond the physical. So long as we stay in the physical domain, it's very difficult to perceive all the things that I'm saying to you. So the consciousness needs to be expanded, that you may perceive that which is beyond the human senses. And that's the joy of what I'm doing with you. I'm taking you into a world beyond the human world. I'm guiding you into a space that I know, a space that I have experienced through my practices. So for me, that space, that subtle space, is a reality. I function from there and I see it clearly. And I know that you can. All you need is to be guided as to how to. But therein lies the science of true well-being. And therein lies the science of mental mastery. Now, I'm going to guide you step by step to really understand this subtle energy anatomy and how it's connected to your physical. Because the driving power in the human experience is not physical. The driver is the subtle, your subtle energy body. Through prana, through energy centers, through intention, through attention, all these are subtle powers. Even the human senses that you have, of seeing, of smelling, of tasting, of touching, of hearing, all these senses are driven by powers from your subtle body. They cannot work unless your subtle body drives them. So the more you can appreciate your subtle energy body, the more you can understand it, and the more you can function from there, the more you will have self-mastery in the human experience, and the more you can have total well-being. So that is the secret of this series that I'm doing with you. It's taking you into the subtle world, that you may understand what lies behind the human. Human body is only a vehicle for your subtle body's expression in the human domain, in the earthly domain. So this is an exciting series, and I want you to follow me step by step as I go through the marvelous world of your subtle energy being. One may call that soul being. Your soul being is a subtle energy being. It's the body of light inside of this physical one. And the more you expand your consciousness, the more you will perceive it. It can only happen by expanding the consciousness. Expanding that space, that mental space. The consciousness in the mental space. So the last day I spoke about this brow center, and I spoke about the root center, how important they are in grounding in the physical domain and grounding in the mental domain. And I showed you how to use the breath, because breath is prana, life force. Behind the breath is the life force. Now, just to come back to multidimensionality, I brought multidimensionality to you based on the subtle energy anatomy. That we have 7 levels in the multidimensionality. And just to recap, for your information, at the crown of the head there's a subtle energy center there. It's called the Sahasrara chakra, and that is the center of infinite consciousness. So when that is totally activated, we become aware of our cosmic nature. We feel connected to the entire universe, and no limits, no borders in the consciousness. So this is in the brain. It's the highest center in the brain. It opens the brain up completely when it's totally activated. So it becomes gradually activated as your consciousness opens up. So consciousness is the fundamental nature of being. And the highest level of consciousness is achieved at the crown of the head. When that energy center at the crown of the head that we call Sahasrara chakra or 1000-petal lotus chakra, when that is open fully. Now the mind operates in that consciousness field and is connected to an energy center that we can begin to experience when we focus at the center of the eyebrows and a medulla focus at the back of the neck. Then we see how it affects the breathing, how that center also influences the breathing. That's your mental center. So the more you experience that center between the eyebrows, the more you will feel power over the mind and the more mental awareness you will have. Now that mental awareness is capable of infinite expansion. You can come into a space of infinite mind where you feel no limits to your mind. Brain becomes completely activated. In the meditation I've shown you how to take the breath there. Of course the air passage goes down from the nose to the lungs. But the pranic energy that is connected to the medulla point will begin to energize the entire brain. So you can breathe prana into the brain. That's what we have been doing in this session. Now the next step in the multidimensionality is the throat area, and you have an energy center, subtle energy center, chakra in the throat area. It's called Vishuddha in the yoga. Vishuddha means pure. When you bring the prana here, when you breathe into this center, there is the consciousness of space, spaciousness. So you are able, when used with the mind, to have this experience of space in the mind, limitless space. And that chakra is connected to the power that drives the sense of hearing. So the power that drives the sense of hearing is not in the physical body, it's in your subtle body. It's called an indriya, a power that drives the senses. So when you focus on this throat center, your hearing becomes more sensitized, and the connection with space becomes more. manifest in your being. So now you can see how the chakras from the throat going down to the root are connected to the senses and are connected to the elements of nature. And this is how your subtle body associates with the senses and with the elements of nature. So if you want to come into true well-being, which means that balance, harmonious balance with nature, with all the elements, and with your mind and your subtle energy functions, then you need to understand the subtle energy anatomy. And not only understand it, but realize it in your awareness. Begin to feel the power of it, the experience of it. So again, throat is connected to the listening, the power of listening. The ear gives a sense of hearing, it's the organ of hearing, but the power of listening is in the subtler body. It's an endriya. The next level in the multidimensionality is at the heart. We have an energy center here. And that is connected to the sense of touch. When you come into that heart consciousness, you feel that your hands and your touch are energized. So if you want to master the sense of touch and the energy behind touch, you need to experience that energy center of the heart. And it's connected to the air element, and you can understand why the lungs is in this area. Navel center is associated with the element fire and the sense of sight. But you can understand why fire and sight are related. Fire creates light, and light allows us to see. So this center is connected to the power of seeing. It is related to fire, the fire element. When you bring your prana here, you feel the body becomes fired up. And you can feel all your senses coming alive in the body. And sight becomes even more powerful. Now, lower down at the sacral center, the sexual center, we have a chakra there, and that chakra is connected to the element of water. So when you come down to that water area, when you feel that relationship of your consciousness with the water element, the energy of the water element. And that's connected to the sense of taste, to the power of taste in the subtle body and the tongue. That is called Swadhisthana chakra. Swadhisthana. It means Haruna board. So it's a powerful place where the energy operates in the human experience. The navel center is called Manipura chakra. Mani means jewel, and Pura is the city of jewels. So here is the city of light. Heart chakra is called Anahata chakra. And that chakra, Anahata means making sound without striking. And here is where subtle sound comes without a striking of the tongue. So before we speak through the voice, the sound is already in the subtle domain, in the Anahata mode, non-striking mode. It becomes a striking sound when you use the mouth. So it is a subtle area of sound. And the root center is associated with the earth element and with the sense of smell. The subtle sense of smell, the power of smelling. So the power of smelling, the power of tasting, the power of seeing, the power of touching, and the power of hearing, they are in the subtle body. They're subtle body powers called Gyanendriyas because they bring knowledge to us. So in today's meditation, we're going to go down there and look at the relationship we have in our conscious being at these centers, these 5 centers: the throat, the heart, the navel, the sacral, the root. How they are associated with the elements and with the senses energetically. This is extremely important to understand if you want to master the inner world and if you want to come into a place of total well-being. And this is the joy of this science, that you do not have to struggle with the mind, but begin to tame the mind by looking at the relationship the mind has with the senses. So that part of the mind that it relates to the senses and to the elements of nature, that part of the mind that is engaged with the senses and the elements of nature, the power of the senses and the elements of nature, that part of the mind is called manas. And that is the part of the mind that becomes very busy with the senses and with nature. So when you begin to look at the relationship between manas, these indriyas, this power of the senses, and these elements which are called bhutas, when you begin to look at that relationship, you are coming now into the place where you can really learn to have a harmonious relationship with the elements of nature and the powers of your senses. And that is extremely exciting, to say the least. Then your senses come alive. You know how to power them up, and you know how to develop a harmonious relationship with the world around you. Then smelling and eating, then tasting and seeing and touching and hearing becomes exciting. So if you want to have the most exciting relationship with your body as a soul being or subtle energy being, you need to understand the science of well-being, the subtle science of well-being. So now we go into the meditation. So understanding what I've said today, let's begin to look at the whole experience of being human in a different way. The first thing we'll do is center in the mental space. The mental space gives us the sense of identity, the ego. It gives us the sense of reason, or the power of reason. Intelligence. So let's give attention to that mental space by focusing at the center of the eyebrows. And when you breathe, make a back of the neck focus, medulla focus, so you can really focus on the prana that's coming into the brain. And remember the secret of breathing: if you push the air out, you'll be able to pull more air into your lungs. And you can generate more pranic power by extending the breath. That brings you into pranayama, which means extension of the prana that you're using, the pranic power. So push the air out, focus at the center of the eyebrows, back up the next focus at the medulla. Ujjayi breath, and just take a little time to center in that mental space. Giving attention to the peacefulness of that space. Giving attention to the silence of that space. Giving attention to the focusing power that you have, power of attention. And give attention to the totality of your being. Centered in the brow, centered in the mental space. Give attention to the totality of being. So as you breathe, create a spinal column focus. Breathing out, taking your attention down the spine. All energy centers are there, right down to the root. Creating a relationship with your physicality by breathing down to the root. And then breathing, holding the root area firmly, then breathe in along the spinal column to the back of the neck, or the medulla point, and into the brain. That's the breathing part of the cycle. Now, as you establish your consciousness in that place of peacefulness, and as you use the pranic power of the breath, become conscious now of the senses. When you breathe into the throat area, sense of hearing, element of space. Take a moment to really begin to appreciate the connection of your throat center, energy center, with hearing. The ear is not far away. And the mind is not far away. The mental chakra is not far away. Look at the relationship now between hearing, listening to the mind, and spaciousness in the mind, limitlessness in the mind. And there you're coming into throat center consciousness. And here you're coming into the power of hearing. Not the ear, but the power of hearing, the subtle power of hearing. And breathe in and out with an extended breath, and a pause at the end of the out breath and a pause at the end of the in breath. And this is how you energize the center of the throat, and you energize the center of the mind. Slow, long, deep breath. Observe how beautiful this space is. In fact, I can make the whole meditation just these two centers. Silent mind, spacious mind, subtle hearing in the inner space. And this is how you train your consciousness and mind to relate to space. When you open your mind, your intuition becomes greater. Just enjoy that idea of limitless space in your conscious being. Infinite mind. And now let's take the consciousness to the heart as we begin to create relationship. Remember, your touch is going to be, sense of touch is going to be heightened. Now you will begin to experience the power of touch, the power that's behind touch. And you're developing a relationship with the air element. So the joy of breathing comes in there. As you open up the chest to breathe, the joy of breathing comes. And power comes to the hand to float, to be energized. Your touch is empowered. And that's felt very powerfully in the hand. Again, extended breath. That's a pranayama mode. Slow breathing, gentle breathing, conscious breathing. That's the pranayama mode. So now you're breathing into the chest, into the throat, into the brow. Opening up the chest to breathe. And here you're bringing in the power of feeling, the power of hearing, and the mind in its association with these powers of the senses. Look at the joy that you are having in being conscious of that heart center. It's a center of feeling. Feeling and touch are related. It's a center of feeling. So loving touch. Loving relationship with the air element. The joy of breathing and breathing fully and completely. The more you do, you will unburden the emotional space. And as you stay centered in the heart, that space of feeling, open up your loving being. So your mind becomes fragrant with that loving energy of being. And observe how the mind, the manas, the part of the mind connected to the senses, how it becomes pacified by the pranayama experience, extending the energy of the breath. And here, if you can appreciate, you're expanding your consciousness. You're going beyond the physical into the subtle realm, into your soul being. So this heart space, this throat space, and this brow space, they constitute the powerful part of your subtle being, your soul being. Now, these are powerful energies you are generating for well-being. Here you can see clearly how your meditation is influencing your state of well-being. So your listening also comes down to the heart and the heart-mind. So when you repeat a mantra, for example, in your subtle body, you listen to the sound in the heart space. And then you appreciate what the anahata experience is. The subtle sound. And now let's step a little lower down in the spinal column. We come into the belly area. A very exciting area. Now here is the firepower. Manipura chakra, firepower. Fires up the digestion. Fires up the entire body. Fires up the activity in every cell. And it puts you into a relationship with the fire element. And that fire in the body creates this radiance of light in your entire being. And it's connected to the power of sight, the power of seeing. And the power of seeing in the subtle energy field is connected to the subtle powers, the subtle colors that you may see in your meditation. Your seeing is not just gross, it's also subtle. So it's also connected to the third eye seeing, gross eyes, and the third eye. Third eye is the subtle eye. The subtle perception. So as you breathe into the gut, extend the breath into the gut, you will actually feel a big boost in the nervous system of the gut. It brings vital power into your gut. The body feels a lot of fire in its being, which brings confidence to the mind, brightness to the mind, a spring on your step, power to the voice, vital power to the voice. The pranayama experience of the gut is that graceful breathing. Remember, when you breathe out completely, you can breathe in deeply. So here, your consciousness through the mind and the ego is in a relationship with the fire element, vitality, perception, subtle and gross. And now let's step a little lower down. This takes us into the vitality of the body, the reproductive area, and the sacral chakra. Just breathe into that center, just above the sexual organ, and stay in connection with the belly, with the heart, with the throat, with the brow. And you have this wonderful influence on the vitality of your body. But that subtle center has to be in a relationship with the belly, with the navel chakra, with the heart chakra, with the throat chakra, with the brow chakra. So when you breathe out, you take your consciousness down the spinal column, down to that sacral center. And when you breathe in, you take your attention up the spinal column, opening up the belly, opening up the chest, breathing into the throat. And so now your mind, your manas, is having a harmonious relationship with the senses of hearing, touching, seeing, and tasting. Sacral chakra is related to the sense of taste. And we have gross taste and we have subtle taste. And now you take your attention right down to the root center and grounding in the physical body, but from your subtle body. So you create a relationship with the perineum center. So when you're breathing in from that perineum area by contracting it gently and taking your consciousness there, and you're going to feel grounded in the body. And that's associated with a sense of smell. Smell becomes heightened. You can actually feel it. And the gross body becomes more into your relationship, your mental relationship. There's a greater relationship with your soul being, with the gross body. So learn to build that relationship with your perineum area. By breathing down into it and breathing in from it. So now there should be total spinal column awareness. And an appreciation for the consciousness of the elements, the powers of the senses, and the mind associated with them. Learning this science and deepening this relationship is what makes meditation super exciting. If you observe carefully, you're more in balance than when you began the meditation. Your senses are more heightened, that in your activities today, you'll have a better relationship with your senses. Smelling, tasting, seeing, touching, hearing. And you'll have a better relationship with the elements of nature. This makes for harmonious coexistence. So here is where we'll begin to conclude our meditation. In gratitude for the gift of experiencing more of our subtle nature. Let's use the power of intention that we can stay in this awareness today. I center my consciousness in that infinite being within, that source of infinite being, that source of infinite peace, love, goodness, wisdom, and vitality. I center my consciousness in every part of my being, every level of my being. And I stay centered there, aligned to the divine, that my every expression in this day, my every thought, my every word, my every action, be a blessing to my world. I give thanks for all the blessings I have received, and I pray to continue to be worthy. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Namaskar everyone, and welcome to a new day. This is day 7. I hope that you've been inspired. This is an important relationship. This is an important practice, important understanding how your subtle energy being or soul being is connected to the senses, to the elements of nature through the mind. It's exciting information, exciting practice. If you stay devoted to your practice every day, at the end of this 21-day series, you will really understand and appreciate what meditation is in its every aspect. Most of all, total well-being. So we end our session here today. It's been a long one, but an important one. And have a great practice today. We look forward to you joining us again tomorrow at the same time. My soul bows to you. Namaskar.